Okay, let me see. Coming back here now. Okay, let's continue on where we are. We're on number Yud Test right now. There we go. And number Yud Test says Rei Be'etz Chaim. And this is really going, once again, is that the yichud of Abba Ve'ima making her into a kli, maybe we would say that it forms her yesod into 50 gates. So he said, Rei Be'etz Chaim over there, Hishech Bebir Kam explains over there, Bedillah, Kasher Abba Mizdaveg Im Ima Bebir Rishona, the very first time that they actually have yichud, that I guess that is yesod to yesod, Ve'etz Brias Olam is here at the creation of the world. That what happened is Hashbia Ba, he strings into her. Osa haruach kanizga b'sabbat de mishpatim. So there's a certain ruach. Ruach goes along with zeranpin. So I'm not sure. I'm trying to just piece it together. He streams into her a ruach. So the shavig ba that he leaves inside of the shavig ba baila, they raise it asosa kli. What does this ruach do for her? It makes her a womb. It makes her a kli. That she could become, have the ability to become impregnated in order to be able to receive the tipas that are going to come from the male. Because after the first bia, this bia, now we're talking about what bia. He says bia for the purpose of creating the world. I guess he's talking about our world. So key comes, and this goes along with this, the kolul shis. So shis is the number of zer anpin. Kenizker b'sifra tzniuta, where we're at. B'sefer hazoyer and b'parshas truma, also over there. He said, "V'hu zer anpin." Of course, we understand it zer kolul vav kitzvahs kenoidim. Let me just read this again. So he says that ki acher bia rishona, after the first bia, and this bia that we're talking about, what bia are we talking about? We're talking about the bia of the brias olam. Asa miftika the kolel shis. So then it comes along this miftika the kolel shis, which is zeranpin, b'sefer hazoyer, etc., and like that. V'hu zeranpin a kolel vav kitzvos kenoida. So then comes along zeranpin. Now, what does he mean by that? Is this exactly how he comes along? V'sasim piska de'ima, and as a result of that, he closes up her gate. He says adkan. But v'hemshech be'etz chaim. Now, if you go along and we go into Amud Hay and etc., he says hu v'sham tosefes devarim. He's going to add more onto this, and he says zelashonah. V'dake inyan the sea is kli zeh. So let's go back to this idea. And I'm thinking, I just had this idea that I wanted to say to you, is that every time that we go to learn, and we want to, which is a creative process, like you have some things you have to learn once, that's for sure you have to learn one time, and then that makes a kli of the possible for you to understand something that's going to be more difficult, is going to come along later, or something more solid. V'daki inyan the sea is kli zel hu, but near we're talking about the kli of creation. Kigam nitnim lo oz bechinas amochim iloim begimel rishonos. Because what happens over there said that when the bia comes, are placed into her nitnin law, placed into her oz bechinas mochim ilon, the tremendous amount of mochim that are coming, of course, coming from Abba, begimel rishonos, into her gar. Vehem mispashtin bekula chukanoida, and it then spreads from the gar, just as we understand it goes into zeranpin, but we understand it's the new. This spreads throughout her body. Yordim ha'aras ha'chasadim machem ha'nekroim rayo. So he says then what can happen now is the real impregnating, I guess we want to say, like element, is this rayo. And he says, Gam Yordim Hachasadim Hachem Hanekroim Rayo, which are called Rayo. Now, there previously I thought he said that the Rayo makes the Kli of the Nukva. That's what we're talking about. The Kli be Yisod Shalah, and he says the Rayo Nekroim Rayo. So this Chasadim come in, and the Kli of the Yisod Shalah, V'na'ase call kli sham, and as a result of this flow here of this rayo, which are you have now a kli from the Bia Rishona. Now the rayo representing 5 chasadim is going to come into her. V'ofen ki ein kli zecher b'yisod levad, Elohim hamochim mamish b'kol kumas abba v'habina. Now I need to read this again. He says, "V'naasa kli sham ba'ofen ki ein kli ze b'yisod levad." So he says it's not, when this happens, it's not just that you're making a kli. Elohim hamochim, but also the kli or the bia. Okay, we have our first interruption here. The Shem should help us to understand this detailed map. Okay, here we go. There we go. All right, here we go. So we're trying to get out. So this rayo comes in, and it says v'na'asim kli sham, and it says let me see. V'oz gam yordim ha'aras ha'chasadim behema nikroyim rayo. So he says the radiance that comes from the chasadim are called by the name rayo. V'kli, and the rayo actually is somehow the ingredients for the kli, b'yisod shalah, in her yisod. V'na'asa kli sham, and then it becomes a kli there. Ba'ofen, and this is another part. Ba'ofen ki ein kli ze b'yisod levad. The kli, when you make the kli, it's just not a kli by itself. Elohim hamochim mamish, but that's in this kli is the mochim itself. Now he said previously that he said that the kli, the key, the kli mafteach, with 6 different slots on it, is zeranpin. Now, does that work in here? Elohim hamochim mamish b'kol kumas abba v'abina, and they come and they spread through the entire stature of Abba v'Ima, Abba v'Habina v'Ima. So umachlalos hahechasadim, and then the hechasadim join together. From the bundle, I guess that would just say, of the 5 chasadim. Hey nifshab gam b'yisod shalachem. So it goes. These chasadim go down also into the yisod of them. Now, what confuses me about this portrayal is that one, you have Abba putting into Ima. So it sounds like Abba's already set because he's giving it into Ima. Over here, he's saying now he's got them writing together. Going back to the black print, he says, Elohim hamochim mamish b'kol kumas Abba and Ima. So now both in Abba v'Ima have all of this light within them. I guess whatever light was in him, he gave it to her, and now the 2 of them are both glowing with this light. Now he says it's a ha'ara, but it doesn't say the light mamish, it says it's a ha'ara. Mechlalas ha'hechasadim, and so, but this bundle of the hechasadim, heim nipshak gam b'yisod shalachem, so the chasadim that we're talking about, which is this rayo, these 5 rayos, go all the way down to the yisod of Abba v'Ima. V'haz na'asis kli, and that is actually the process of making the kli. It's still not so clear to me, but this is how you make the kli. So he says it's the kli, but the kli is not by itself. The kli also has these mochim in it. V'achar chozer ha'aba lahamshech mochim atzman pnimim shel zivug. So then you see that after that, Abba goes back, and he says lahamshech, and why? To order to stream down mochim atzman, the mochim themselves. So he wants to say the kli is made out of a ruach. That's what he said. I guess ruach is like more like what do I want to say? It's like a ha'ara. It's not the neshama itself. It's the part that covers the neshama. So maybe we could say that. Then he brings the mochim himself, penimim shel zivug. So the zivug, the first zivug, is to bring a ha'ara into her. And this ha'ara, along with the mochim that accompany it, also makes her into a kli. Then Abba allows to stream into her all the rest of the mochim. Umavur sheyesh kan beis and yamin. Now let's go over this, he says. 1, Aleph. Hamshachas mochin b'kol kumus ima. So the mochin go through the entire body of ima. Beam came, and that's the case. Zecher she'amar kan vis nehiras ima. That's what it says that ima is lit up. Ki hamochim meirim kol kumas ima, because the mochim enlighten or light up all of the stature of ima. Number base. Mechlalas achasadim. So from when we talk about this bundle of chasadim that animshach b'yisod, and that is placed at extremes into yisod, naasis ima bebekinas kli, she becomes a kli lekabel tipus aholeda, in order to be able to receive the tipus aholeda, which I'm assuming are the higher level mochin. V'nikra piska de ima, and it becomes then known as the gate of ima, or the door of ima v'im kain, and that's the case. Zecher she'amar kan miftka b'samroi, this is what it means, and that she opens up her gates. Re gam ba'arahabor. I just like to read this last one more time, so I could try to get it, please. He says, so now you have this bundle of chasadim that have come in. Mechlalas hachasadim animshach b'yisod. So in that bundle of I'm using klalos, I'm calling it a bundle. Animshach b'yisod, that streams to the yisod. Now he didn't say yisod. I just said yisod. V'naases ima b'bechinas kli. And this streaming now is going to make her into a kli l'kabel tipus oleda, to be able to this tipa that's going to give birth to zachar v'nog. V'nikra piska de ima. So he says, what is called the kli is called the door of ima. V'im came zehu she'amar kan piska basroi regam b'ha'aras abos. So there's going to be more coming up here, which is going to be very interesting, and try to understand this a little bit more detail. I guess that's it for today.